Welcome to Second Round Syndrome. Round 2. Fight.
Welcome on into Second Round Syndrome, your talk for the Philadelphia 76ers and the NBA. I'm your host, DJ Sports Zone. With me, as always, is my co-host, Jordan Sabel. Jordan, Second Round Syndrome has struck again for the 76ers. How you doing? And I see you're wearing something different than Sixers gear. Maybe you're sick of them, but what's going on?
Yes, DJ. Maybe I am a bit sick of the Sixers with how they've been performing in that second round. But yes, I am repping the new U.S. men's national team or U.S. soccer jersey. Obviously, the World Cup is days away at this point. It's been a long time coming, and I'm just super excited for the World Cup and the World Cup fever to hit this country and for, soccer to kind of grow as well. But yeah, let's talk about the Sixers. That's why we're here, but just hyped for the game today and for the upcoming World Cup.
Yeah, it's been a while since we did a show. Life has just gotten in the way, and I'm glad to be back. If you missed the podcast, I've still been posting every single day on DJ Sports Zone, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. I've been posting reactions to all the conference finals games. I'm definitely going to be covering every single finals game because we got the San Antonio Spurs going up against the stinky, awful, disgraceful New York Knicks. I'm sure you can guess who I'm rooting for this upcoming finals. We have so much to talk about. We're going to talk about the Sixers coming back against Boston down 3-1. For the first time in franchise history, the Sixers have ever done that. The first time the Celtics have ever blown a 3-1 lead in franchise history. We're going to talk about the Sixers getting their asses kicked by the New York Knicks after they got swept. Then we're going to talk about a little bit about the Western Conference Finals between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs, they took down the defending champs. We're going to talk about the Knicks sweeping the Cleveland Cavaliers and what we're going to see going into the NBA Finals starting on Wednesday night. So, with the Sixers, right? I was very impressed with them in the first round. Like, it's so crazy seeing the difference between the first round and the second round, right? The Sixers were down 3-1. Everyone, including myself, thought it was over. I mean, we reacted to their performance after game one. They got blown out, right? They got blown out in games 1 and game 4, right? Embiid finally came back. And honestly, after coming back from the appendectomy, Embiid looked pretty healthy overall, actually. They played extremely well. And honestly, I'll give Embiid some credit because this episode, I'm going to go at Joel Embiid. Anyone that knows me knows that I am a huge Joel Embiid fan. I've supported this man every single year. Now I'm kind of at the point where I'm done with that. It's not personal. I love Joel Embiid as a person. I'm sure he's an amazing human being, right? One day I would love to meet Joel, right? That's how much I admire him, everything that he's done for this organization. But the Sixers would not have made it past that first round without him. I want to be very clear. He was incredible, right? We obviously got a great game or two from vjedgecombe, right? We tyresemaxey looked pretty solid in that series. Paul George played incredible defense against the Celtics. Right. And you could even say, okay, maybe in game 7, the Celtics maybe could have won if Jaysontatum was in. Right. He was out that game. Honestly, that was one of the best series I've ever seen. It just was. I mean, we've seen the Sixers go against so many mediocre opponents in the first round, whether you're talking about like a Miami Heat team with like Kelly Olynyk and Josh Richardson, whether you're talking about a Brooklyn Nets team with a young D'Angelo Russell, Jared Allen. Heck, even Jared Dudley was picking fights with people in that series. I mean, you could talk about the Toronto Raptors with no Kawhi Leonard at that point. You could talk about the Brooklyn Nets with Mikal Bridges and Nick Claxton. The Sixers haven't had many great opponents in the first round, right? Now, they did face the New York Knicks 2 years ago, but they lost that series. This time, they faced the Boston Celtics, who were so good this year, right? And a lot of that had to do with Jalenbrunson. But then you got Jaysontatum back. And I thought they were going to go all the way to the finals. Like, I thought they were going to beat the Sixers easily, right? Maybe not a sweep, but maybe 5 games, right? Maybe you could squeeze a 6th game, right? That's what the Sixers did a couple years ago when Embiid was on one leg and half a face dealing with Bell's palsy. But they were able to do it, right? And Jalenbrown immediately was going on Twitch, complaining about everything, saying the refs had an agenda and how this was his favorite season, and how him and Stephen A have had beef going back and forth. He was crying on Twitch, and I actually had hope. I thought the Sixers might be able to go on a run. Right. I was not happy with the Sixers this season, and as you know, watching or listening to every single episode, I was not happy. Right. They traded away Jared McCain. They didn't have any depth, but they were still winning some games. And they could have lost the play-in. Like I said, it was possible. They could have fallen to the 10 seed. They could have got knocked out of the play-in. And we were even talking about their lottery odds, right? Because they had a top 4 protected pick. Obviously, that doesn't matter anymore. It's relevant. But then they go into the Knicks series, and it looks like they don't even try. And the funny thing is, Jordan, the one game it seemed like they did try was the one game, game 2, that Embiid did not play. Embiid was clearly injured in that Knicks series. Now, I'm not using that as an excuse. I want to be very clear about that. I am not using that as an excuse. I'm using that as an observation saying when Embiid is hurt, because he was healthy in the Boston series, in the Knicks series, he was injured. And the Sixers played way better with Embiid not on the floor. Normally, it's the opposite. The Sixers are usually terrible with Embiid off the floor. But because Embiid is injured, which he usually is at this point, it's very rare when we do see him healthy and we see what the Sixers team can be in a very rare occasion when he's healthy. But because he's not, now the question once again pops up of, does the Sixers team need Joel Embiid anymore? Because we know what he could do when he's there, when he's healthy. But at this point, seeing that he played 19 games last season. The season before he played 39 games. And this season he only played 38 games. And the injuries are not his fault. I've said it 1,000 times. I don't think he's purposely missing games or anything like that. It's not load management. It's just he always gets injured, right? How do you plan an appendectomy? How do you plan appendicitis? It's so random, right? It's not a basketball injury, right? Things happen. It's not like right now we're all wondering what happened to Mitchell Robinson's broken pinky, right? And the Knicks won't even tell us. Right? It didn't happen in a game, didn't happen in practice. He did something stupid off the court. Right? That you could be mad at Mitchell Robinson for because he's usually injured too. But in this case, you can't be mad at Joel Embiid. This is just who he is. So, Jordan, I'll ask you this question. Do you think the Sixers are just better off without Embiid at this point? Because we have Maxey developing still. VJ is coming up here. We have this 22nd pick coming up from the Jared McCain trade. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, the thing is, Embiid is locked down to a long-term contract that pays a lot of money because we locked him down to that Supermax contract, I think a couple seasons ago. And those are hitting next year and then the year after. I believe the year after that too. So the thing is, if we're not gonna be able to trade. I don't think we're gonna be able to trade an asset like Joel Embiid around the league because of the demands of his supermax contract. But again, it's all up to the decision making of Mike Gansey, who's the new general manager for the team, with obviously Daryl Morey getting dropped as a result of how the season panned out, and obviously the calamity of trades and transactions that have happened throughout his tenure. Obviously, look at Julian Champagnie now at the Spurs, performing like he's great. McCain traded to the Thunder, which you've talked about, DJ, on and on throughout this podcast and throughout the season about how terrible a trade it was. And look at him performing in the Western Conference Finals against the Spurs. He was phenomenal. He was phenomenal throughout all of the playoffs, pretty much. What a great bench piece. Would have been super helpful for our team, but Morey let that go. But yeah, eventually it's going to come down to, let's see what Mike Gansey can do. And we'll talk about this probably later on in the show.
Yeah.
But in general, I think Embiid is still super important to this team. I would like to see him stay. I would like to see him be the guy that stays with the same team for pretty much his whole career. And I know that's a rarity in sports. But I think Embiid represents Philadelphia, and Philadelphia represents a player and needs someone like Embiid. A guy who's going to fight tooth and nail for everything. Even if he does get injured, he'll come back and still produce at least similar to what he was doing previously. I would like someone like that. So I'm in the bracket of, I think we should keep Embiid personally. We're kind of stuck, like I said, with the contract stuff. It's complicated. It adds an extra element. It's tough to trade. He is tough to trade because because organizations know his injury history. At this point, we're kind of at the may have to run the length of this contract. I don't know how easy it will be to get him out of the organization. Do you think that's a possibility, DJ, that we'll be able to trade him, and what for?
Well, I'm not even. Let me just ask you this question here, because I obviously don't agree with you here. But let's just say you can trade the contract, okay? Is your answer because of the contract, or do you actually think we should keep Embiid, as you said, for the longevity of his career? Oh, so he could stay on the same team for his whole career. Like, if you can trade the contract, would you?
I think the contract is like a huge portion of the issue because it's a supermax contract.
But I'm saying ignore that. Ignore that right now. Like, if you could right now, based on what we've seen the last 3 years, let's take the sample size here. Would you trade Embiid?
Yeah, because production's not been good enough.
Okay, that's where I'm at right now. And again, I know that the contract is untradeable. You know that the contract is untradeable. Anyone that has a brain that's listening or watching this podcast right now knows that this contract is untradeable. Okay, that's the reason why Embiid is probably going to stay on this roster, because I don't think anyone that comes in this organization, whether it was Daryl Morey before, whether it's now Mike Gansey, the new president of basketball operations, I don't think Adam Silver, if he comes in himself, it becomes the president of basketball operations. Nobody can do it. There's no magic wand that somebody's going to wave and he's magically going to appear in another jersey. It's just not going to happen. But the problem is you're going to run into the same results every year. Joel Embiid is already 32 years old. It does not get better with age, right? The last 3 years have been terrible, and he's dealt with injuries his whole career. But in particular, these last 3 years, it's been so bad, and I don't see it getting any better. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I love Embiid. I would love to see him here until he is retired, which could be next year. Who knows at this point? But I would love to see him on the roster still. But I have to accept reality at this point that I don't think the Sixers are doing anything with Joel Embiid on the roster. Again, I hope I am wrong, because I would love to see Embiid win a championship for this organization. They haven't won a championship since 1983. It would be so cool if Embiid was the one to do it. But I have to live in reality, because after watching that New York Knicks series, like, nobody could miss on that team. Nobody. I mean, after that Hawks series, Mikal Bridges has looked like a superstar. Like, he's been so good. OG Anunoby has been so good, right? Josh Hart has been incredible. Obviously, there's not much you have to say about Jalenbrunson. Jalenbrunson is so good, right? He's so shifty. He can shoot from anywhere. Karlanthonytowns, even though he's been in foul trouble most of these playoffs, he's still been productive. He still walks out with a double-double, even though he's always on the bench because he's in foul trouble. And then, do I even have to mention Landry Shamet? Like, oh my goodness, another fumble from the Sixers, right? He was somebody that we traded for Tobias Harris, gave Tobias Harris that awful 5-year contract, and we see Landry Shamet. I think he's one of the biggest reasons the Knicks are where they are right now, right? Because he's been so productive off the bench. This is a guy that Tom Thibodeau barely wanted to play last season. Right? It wasn't until the media and fans were complaining of, oh my goodness, you're running your starters into the ground, play some of your guys. And then he started playing Campaign and Landry Shamet. This season, Mike Brown uses his depth, right? He plays Landry Shamet. He plays Miles McBride. He plays Jordan Clarkson, Jose Alvarado, who they traded for at the deadline. All right. He plays these guys, and it works out for them. The Knicks are extremely deep. The Sixers are not. I mean, the bench is awful. I mean, Quentin Grimes had a decent game or two, but outside of him, who do they have, right? And as you said, Jared McCain would have certainly been helpful. Now, would the result have changed with Jared McCain on the roster? I don't think so, honestly. I think they still would have gotten swept, but your future would have been bright, right? Brighter, I should say. It's still bright when you have Maxey and VJ on the roster, but imagine having Jared McCain in there as well, right? And I don't want to hear that Daryl Morey, Nick Nurse, they couldn't find any playing time for this guy, right? You look at the Thunder, right? And forget the injuries they had. Yes, I know Jalen Williams was out. Yes, I know AJ Mitchell was out. But you still have shaigilgeousalexander. You still have Alex Caruso. You still have Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Cason Wallace. You still have all these guys that they could have played. And they still found minutes for Jared McCain. McCain was starting in the Western Conference Finals 3 months after he got traded. This is the same guy that Nick Nurse and Daryl Morey sent to the G League this season, right? And I feel like we all forgot that. They sent him to the G League. And now he's starting in Western Finals conference finals games. Like, it's so bizarre. I can't even finish my sentences. Like, my mind was blown. And as you said, he played extremely well. He played so well. And you could say, okay, maybe his performance wasn't great in that game 7. Okay, fine. Right. But he's so young and he has so much room to develop. And I trust Mark Daigneault to get him that playing time. I trust Mark Daigneault to get him that experience. That way, next season, when they're back in this situation, maybe he plays a little bit better in a game 7 scenario. Right. So it's just so frustrating. And yes, Joel Embiid, he actually didn't miss a single shot in that game 4. 24 points, he shot 8 of 8 from the field. That's not good enough. Right? You need him to score 35 points, 40 points, because you can't rely on anybody else. Now you could say, oh, well, why aren't you putting any blame on Tyrese Maxey? Was Maxey bad in that series? Yes, everyone's bad. Right? I don't know a single player that played well for the Sixers in that series. But at the same time, it's so hard to get your shots off when you're getting doubled and triple teamed on every single possession. Right? I don't know any possession in that series. And if anyone wants to find me one, okay, cool. Right? Pull a clip, send it to me. Cool. I don't know any possession where he was left wide open. I don't know any possession where he was even one-on-one with somebody else. Right? Because everybody knows that Jalenbrunson is not a great defender. Right? We all know that at this point. But when you have Jalenbrunson on him, then you have him being joined by Josh Hart or OG or Bridges. Like, Maxey doesn't have a chance. So all Maxey can do is get the ball to somebody else. But the problem is, nobody else is able to score, right? VJ looked like a rookie in that series. Paul George looked like 100 years old in that series, right? Joel Embiid obviously was injured in that series. And then the bench is absolutely useless because all you have to do is rely on Quentin Grimes. Because do you trust Justin Edwards? Do you trust Dominic Barlow? No. Do you trust Jabari Walker? No, like Justin Edwards, like any of these guys, you could go through the list. Adem Bona, Trendon Watford, Drummond, like, these are not guys you could rely on. And that was the Thunder's problem with Jalen Williams and AJ Mitchell out, right? Because all the weight had to be on shaigilgeousalexander, right? No Jalen Williams, right? No AJ Mitchell. Obviously, Chet Holmgren didn't show up. So all you had to do was rely on your depth, and they just didn't show up. But I trust their depth over what the Sixers have. I take that any day. So they have so many things to work on this offseason. Now, I was hoping when Daryl Morey got fired, which I'm very happy about that move, right? That made absolute sense. Mike Gansey, okay? I don't know what he's going to be able to do. Now, clearly, Bob Myers, I wanted him to take over. Clearly, he wanted no part in the draft. Clearly, he wanted no part in fixing this team. He made sure that this was taken care of immediately. And maybe that's a good thing, right? That he was on it right away. But at the same time, if anyone could have fixed it, it was Bob Myers. Now, it doesn't mean, Jordan, that Bob Myers is going to, go to Cancun, take a vacation while Mike Gansey is suffering. Like, he's still going to be around. He's still going to be part of this organization. I mean, he is the president of sports for Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment. So, like, that's literally his job, is overseeing everything. So Josh Harris doesn't have to, which is a good thing. But at the same time, we look at Mike Gansey, who, for those that don't know, was the GM of the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't know exactly what he's done, right? The problem is, does he have experience as the lead decision maker, right? Does he have experience in the front office? Yeah. He's been a part of the Cavs organization since 2011. He's been the GM of the Cavs since 2022. But at the same time, what has he done? We don't know, right? I'll say the equivalent, because some people might be saying, well, you don't know because you're not a Cavs fan. Well, let me flip it on the Sixers. It's the same thing of, I don't know what Elton Brand's been doing the last couple of years, right? Since Daryl Morey got hired, what has Elton Brand done, right? We know what he did before Daryl Morey. We know that he gave Tobias Harris that ridiculous contract. We know that he signed Al Horford to that ridiculous contract. We know what Elton Brand did, but then Daryl Morey comes in and trades Horford and Richardson for Seth Curry and Danny Green, right? We know the moves that Daryl Morey has made. We don't know if Elton Brand was a part of any of it, right? We don't know if Elton Brand was part of the James Harden trade. We don't know if he was a part of letting Isaiah Joe and Julian Champagnie and the Jared McCain trade. Like, we don't know. We don't know if he was a part of the Paul George signing or the Joel Embiid extension. We don't know if he was a part of drafting Tyrese Maxey or Jared McCain. or VJ Edgecombe? We have no idea. It's the equivalent of Mike Gansey. Was he responsible for drafting Evan Mobley? Don't know. Was he responsible for trading for Donovan Mitchell or Jared Allen? Don't know. And especially if we don't know if he was the one responsible for trading Darius Garland for James Harden. And I said this at the trade, right? And, Jordan, you were a little bit more positive on it than me. Right now, I'm looking right in this situation. I'm wrong a lot. I want to be very clear. I'm wrong a lot, right? I was having a conversation with my father about the Knicks Cavs series. I thought it was going to go like 7 games. I was horribly wrong. I will take the L right there. This, I knew I was right about, because James Harden just cannot win, right? They decided to trade Darius Garland for a player 10 years older who's never won anything, and they called it a win now move. And I didn't understand that at the time, because how is it a win now move if he's a player that's never won anything and has choked in the playoffs every single year? I didn't get that move. Now, I'm not saying that Darius Garland would have gotten this team any further. I'm not. I don't even know if they would have made it to the conference finals with Darius Garland. But to be fair, they didn't win a conference finals game with Darius Garland, and they didn't win a conference finals game with James Harden. So to be fair, it was really the same result. Unless you want to give them a participation trophy, okay, we can do that. I mean, I'm sure I can make one up, arts and crafts it up. Let's do it. But you couldn't have gotten a better player for Darius Garland. Nobody better. It just seemed like a desperate move. Anyone at this point that trades for James Harden, it's a desperate move. It was desperate for the Clippers. It was desperate for the Cavs. I understand the Sixers at the time, because James Harden played very well in Brooklyn. He wasn't too far removed from his Houston days, about a year or two after, right? Obviously, he had connections with Daryl Morey. I understood it at the time. I don't consider that a desperate move. And you also traded Ben Simmons, who's now, winning fishing tournaments. So, I don't see as a bad trade even to this day. But for the Clippers, made no sense, especially seeing the picks they gave up to Philly. And the Cavs trade made no sense. Now, they didn't have to give up any first-round picks. I think they only gave up a second, if I'm remembering correctly. And then obviously Darius Garland. But my point is, I don't know if Mike Gansey was responsible for that. And if he was responsible for any of that stuff, then this is not a good move, right? Depending on who he traded for, who he drafted. Now, if he wasn't responsible for it, I still don't know if it's a great move, because he doesn't have experience as the lead decision maker. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe working with Bob Myers, it all works out in the end of the day. Maybe he's able to find a way to build around Maxey, VJ, Embiid, and Paul George, and it works out great. And they make the conference finals next year, and they go on a run. Or maybe he finds a way to trade one or two of those guys, because in my opinion, I think Paul George is a tradable contract now, especially, and maybe you disagree with this, Jordan. I'm going to throw it back to you in a second here. I think Paul George is more tradable for this reason. Okay. He played extremely well after the suspension. He played extremely well in the Boston series, and looking at his contract, there's only 2 years left, one with a player option that he's most certainly going to take, because he's not stupid. He knows he's not getting that money elsewhere. So you're stuck with him for 2 years. I think a desperate team, let's just say Golden State, right? Let's just say Golden State fumbles on the Giannis sweepstakes. Let's just say they can't get LeBron. They can't get anyone else. Maybe they trade Jimmy Butler, who only has 1 year left, by the way. He's injured next season, at least most of next season. They trade 1 year Jimmy Butler for 2 years of Paul George, right? And you just have Jimmy's expiring contract, and you can use that money the following season, right? And then Golden State, they have one more run with Steph Curry and with Draymond Green, along with Paul George, who they were even thinking of getting a couple of years ago. What are your thoughts on all that so far? How do you think Mike Gansey is going to do? Do you agree with what I said? Disagree? What are your overall thoughts?
Going back to the Harden stuff, I want to kind of touch on that. There's probably a likelihood that that Harden decision came from above Mike Gansey, from ownership, or
I agree.
That's a possibility, just because they might be desperate to try and get something for some success in Cleveland. And when that happens, that guy, he doesn't really have much of a say. You have to agree with that. And he might be leaving Cleveland as a result of that decision, to be like, hey, maybe in Philly, I'll have more of a say, a decision making, a choice. So that's probably, I would say, a big reason why he moved. And it relatively moved quickly too.
Hmm.
That decision was from Morey to Gansey probably within a week, I think.
Hmm.
It was super fast. So obviously he had been looking for an out, and the Sixers were able to get something sorted. So I'm hopeful it works out. But then going into your Paul George claim, I think the contract is possibly portable. I think it could
Hmm.
be moved. But the issue with Paul George is he only played like what 25 to 30 games this full season, and that includes the playoffs. It wasn't many, and I don't think he's suited enough for a full season. As a player currently at his age, I don't think he can play every game. It's probably going to be the couple games on, couple games off, longer term load management, and maybe a team can pick up his contract. Like you said, it's more manageable compared to Embiid. Obviously, he's not at the level as he was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So,
No, but I'm saying it's a desperate move. Like for the Warriors,
sure.
they know they have a year or two left of Steph Curry. So let's go all out. We can't get Giannis. We can't get LeBron. Hey, Paul George is available. Let's get it. We have Jimmy Butler's contract that's not going anywhere. Let's go for it. No, I don't think he's going to play most games that season, but it's once again a desperate move like the James Harden thing.
That's possible, I guess. I'd be curious what type of team would want to pick him up though. That what types of like what type of market? Obviously, you're bringing up Golden State. It's
That's
pretty
only
big
honest.
market in
Yeah,
terms.
that's honestly the
So
only team I could see right
yeah,
now. Like I would have to think through it, but I'm thinking of desperate teams that have like a year or two left in their window. That might be it.
and that would be more of not like a summer move, but more of a like a trade deadline thing. So I don't think any. I personally don't think, and I'd be crazy if this would be crazy if it happened. If this guy comes in, Gansey comes in and starts making trades and players are in and out like the door. I don't expect a too heavy of a like a in terms of this summer. I think he's gonna bring in probably a couple players, shuffle a couple out, and we'll kind of see what happens.
Yeah, I don't even know who you bring in. I mean, you have a couple free agents. I mean, obviously Kyle Lowry's not coming back at least as a player. Maybe he comes back as a coach because they did keep Nick Nurse, by the way, which I don't know if I agree with. Usually, when you bring in a new guy, they like to bring in their own coach. So they decided to keep Nick Nurse. I don't know if that was the best move or not. We'll
He's
see.
definitely on a hot seat though.
I think this has to be the last year. Like, if he can't get this done now, give him credit. Okay, this is the first time that his team made it into the second round since he's been a part of the Sixers organization. But then you didn't win a game, right? Then you got your asses kicked. So like I don't know about that. Um, but like I don't know who you're going to be able to bring in. So yeah, as I said, Kyle Lowry, maybe he's part of the coaching staff. Drummond, I know is a free agent. I wouldn't bring him back. Kelly Oubre, I know is a free agent. I would think about bringing him back because I think he is a very productive player. And then the other big question, because part of the reason they traded Jared McCain was to give more playing time and possibly a contract this offseason to Quentin Grimes. Now, I don't know if I would bring him back. And if you do, it would have to be on a very cheap contract, right? Like maybe even closer to like a minimum, which obviously Quentin Grimes would not want. I mean, you saw the proof last offseason. He wanted 25 to 30 mil per year, which no team wants to give him that. I mean, I think the only two teams that actually have cap space that could give him that is the Brooklyn Nets, and I believe the other one is the Chicago Bulls. So unless he wants to go to one of those two teams that are going nowhere, at least in the next several years, okay. Like, but I don't think he's getting on the Sixers. Would you bring back Quentin Grimes?
I had this chat with another friend after what was it? A couple of the I think the two of the New York Knicks games I watched with them, and yeah, we said no. I wouldn't bring back Quentin Grimes just because he's probably going to want to demand that same a long-term contract and a high pay. I'm not seeing the production for him. If he's not starting, let him go.
And because of the amount of money you're paying to those three guys, right? Embiid, PG, Maxey, you're just not going to have enough room to sign anybody of significance. You're going to have to bring guys in on, minimum contracts. Like, I have no idea. I saw a report. I don't think this is real, but I wouldn't be shocked. I saw a report saying, like, oh, maybe the Sixers are keeping an eye on Harrison Barnes, which I wouldn't do that. Another old washed player. Like, yeah, he's in the finals, but he's not getting many minutes now in the Spurs. He's a veteran. He's important over there. But no, like that's not going to help us. We need like this is the part that people don't understand. And when I say people, I mean front offices that are like the Sixers are one of these. how to win a championship at this point. You need two things. You need youth and depth. That's it. Youth and depth. And you look at all these teams, right? San Antonio, obviously they have that. They have size, they have speed, athleticism, shooting, defense. They do have veteran leadership. They have great coaching, but they have youth and depth. Those are the two most important things, right? Same thing with the New York Knicks. Now, are they as young as the Spurs? No, but I mean, there's no old player there in the starting lineup for the New York Knicks, right? These guys are in their mid to late 20s. When you talk about Brunson, OG, Bridges, Hart, Cat, like there's no old player on this team that's going to hold them back. You know, you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, youth and depth. You look at the Pacers last year, youth and depth, right? Cleveland was the only exception, obviously, because of, you know, James Harden being up there in age. So that's how you win a championship at this point, right? What contender has a 36-year-old on a max contract? It just doesn't happen, right? Can it happen? Maybe. It's so tough to have two players that are on max contracts in their, you know, mid to late 30s. It just doesn't work that way. So I just don't know if you're going to be able to bring anyone in that's going to make a significant impact unless Joel Embiid is healthy and Paul George is healthy at the end of the season, which is always a big if, which never happens. I mean, now we're 2 years into the Paul George experiment, right? Now we're about to go into year one of the Joel Embiid contract extension. I just don't see it getting any better. I'm so frustrated in this team. Again, I like that Daryl Morey's gone. We'll give Nick Nurse one more chance, I guess, but we'll see. We'll have to see what Mike Gansey does. I don't know if you're going to be able to make any move unless it's trading one of those guys to win the fan base back. Because what are you going to say at this point? Like if I'm Mike Gansey coming into his first press conference, if I'm, you know, Josh Harris, if I'm Bob Myers, like what do I say to get fans back? It's all right. Well, we're going to hope to be healthy. Like Mike Gansey's your one guy to say, okay, we made a change. Come back, fans. Is that going to be enough? Like they didn't show up in that Knicks series, right? Those home games, it was once again taken over by Knicks fans. And was that, you know, the Knicks fans' fault? Not really. Philly fans didn't want to go. They didn't want to see that crap. And I don't blame them. Anyone that wanted to go to those games, like I feel so bad, you know, that they wasted their money, they wasted their time going and supporting that. Because I don't blame them. So I don't know. It's so frustrating.
It's completely frustrating, but I'm hopeful that, you know, new faces in the organization can kind of, you know, kickstart something. You never know. I think, like you may be pessimistic-ish about Gansey, but I think just having a new face in there and he may be able to influence make other decisions that could possibly, you know, end up, you know, falling in line with how we want to look in the future. New faces, that's good. And I guess we'll push on.
Last thing I want to say about this, it's just one of those things of I need to see it to believe it. That's it. I mean, again, new face, positive. That's a positive thing. But now I have to see the change for me to believe that anything could happen with the organization. So we'll see what happens. Yes, I do want to cover a little bit of the other series here. I specifically want to talk about, because we saw Game 7 last night, Oklahoma City versus San Antonio. I you know, am so impressed by the Spurs. I mean, wembanyama, look out, NBA, look out. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever going to be able to get to the finals ever again or win a championship with Wembanyama there. I just don't see it unless an injury happens or something like that. Like there's just no way. How do you beat this guy? I mean, he's 7'4". He could shoot anywhere on the floor. He wants to win. I mean, you saw his emotions after that win last night. I mean, he was crying. He was ready to go. Now he's ready to get those New York Knicks, which is actually kind of funny because it's like a rematch of the NBA Cup. I mean, I'm not going to compare it to that at all because, you know, that's like one game back in January compared to a 7-game series. But it's kind of ironic that, you know, it's the matchup is happening once again. An important scenario, even though this is obviously not even like it's night and day between the NBA Cup and the actual, you know, NBA Finals. But like, I just don't know how you stop them. And then you have the speed of De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, right? Dylan Harper, your guy there. I mean, he's been so good. He came into the season not really being able to shoot. Now he's like one of the better shooters on this team. It's kind of funny that they won last night because now I think it's 8-0 with NBA teams winning a game 7 with a player on it that has a birthday. Like Paul George won game 7 against the Boston Celtics on his birthday. Yesterday was Harrison Barnes. So it's kind of funny that this keeps happening. It's not like a real statistic, but when I saw that, I'm like, that's kind of funny and ironic because once people found that out, they're like, oh, the Spurs are winning this. Again, it's a dumb statistic, but I think it's funny and ironic. But with the Oklahoma City Thunder, I cannot believe they lost this series, right? You're coming in as the reigning, defending NBA champs, right? Shaigilgeousalexander, I will give him a lot of credit. He played very well. I believe he had 35 points. He shot 12 of 21 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3, 9 of 11 for the free throw line. So he didn't go too crazy with free throws. I mean, one of these games, he had like 17 attempts, which is crazy. But the problem is he didn't have any help. Okay. Jalen Williams was out, and clearly he is so important to this team. And we know this. We already know how important he is, but it can't be an excuse. And now you can say, oh, well, usually when Jalen Williams is out, you rely on AJ Mitchell. Okay, he's out. But it doesn't matter. Like, look at the players you have on that team, especially the number 2 overall pick, Chet Holmgren. Where were you, dude? Like, it's so ridiculous. You're 7-1. Now I get Wemby's like 7-4, 7-5. You're 7-1. It's not like, you're 6'5" or anything like that. Like in the beginning of that series, the Thunder, they were having Alex Caruso guarding Wembanyama in the paint. Like that made no sense to me whatsoever. You have a guy who's 7-1, right? You're a one-time All-Star. You got your first All-Star selection this season, right? You're on the All-NBA third team this year. You are runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. You were on an all-defensive team. I think he was on the first team, if I'm correct, right? You're a defending champ. You and Wemby clearly don't like each other, right? This has been well established in the media that you two have some sort of beef with each other. You don't like each other. Well, what's the point of having beef? Like Wemby just walked all over you. He just comes in, he can score whatever he wants. He gets every block. Like, yeah, you get a block or two here and there. But last night, Jordan, this guy had 2 shots the entire game. Right. And both of those shots came in, I believe, the first 3 minutes of the first quarter. And that was it. He didn't take a single shot in the second half. Not a single one. Like it's so crazy how you're the number 2 overall pick. Right. You were after Paolo Banchero, I believe. Right. You were in the race of rookie of the year the next year because you didn't play that year. You were out with injury, but you were in a rookie of the year competition with Wemby, actually. Obviously, he wins that. Like, he's just better at you than everything. And you didn't even try to show your worth. You could say, well, Chet won a championship last year. Okay, that's great. But win another one, right? And now that Wemby is here, right? Because the Spurs weren't in the playoffs last year. Now they're here, and they're going nowhere anytime soon. Is this what we're going to see every single year from Chet Holmgren? He's just going to be living in Wemby's shadow? Like, dude, show what you're worth. Show that you're an all-star. Show that you're a champion. Because this guy, Wemby, hasn't proven anything yet. Now, when he becomes a champion, it's all Wemby now. But it was you. You were that guy. And you didn't show up. Like, you don't even deserve to go to Cancun. Like, I'll steal a Charles Barkley quote. Like, he needs to get over to Galveston, right? And go into the dirty-ass water. I don't understand. I'm so lost for words, Jordan, seeing that performance. Like, it really reminded me, and I'm seeing comparisons of this on the internet now, and I kind of agree. Now, I will say, before I say this comparison, that he did win a championship, right? He did show up a lot of this season, and he won a championship for his team last year, but I'm seeing a lot of Ben Simmons comparisons, okay? Especially in this series. I'm not going to say overall, like, Chet Holmgren is a better player than Ben Simmons, because he helped his team win a championship. But seeing how he was this series, and we saw a bunch of players kind of act the same way. We saw that from Jalenbrunson, right? We saw that from Evan Mobley. I mean, I guess you could say we saw that a little bit from James Harden. But, man, where was Chet Holmgren? And he was just paid this massive contract last offseason. Jalen Williams just got paid last offseason, and he's been dealing with these injuries all season. And now this upcoming offseason, you have to figure out if you're going to be able to keep some of these other players like Lou Dort, like Hartenstein, like Caruso, right? I believe Aaron Wiggins is a restricted free agent. Like, can you keep any of these guys, or do you say, okay, well, now we could trust our young guys? Because instead of trusting Chet and Jalen Williams, you had to rely on Cason Wallace. You had to rely on Jared McCain. You had to rely on Alex Caruso. You had to rely on J. Will. And I don't know if that's good enough. Now, again, Topage, maybe he gets more minutes next season. You still got Isaiah Joe. You didn't really play Aaron Wiggins much if you bring him back. And then you have Thomas Sorber, who didn't play all this season due to injury. He'll be here. And then they even got a lottery pick for this upcoming draft. Maybe they'll have enough where they'll be back and they can push their way back to the NBA Finals. I don't know. But what are your overall thoughts on what we saw from the Spurs versus the Thunder, and especially with Chet Holmgren?
I thought this series was one of the best series of the playoffs.
I agree.
Right behind the Sixers Celtics series. I thought that was top of the line. Obviously, there's bias there, but this was a classic. Game 7, one side throwing punches, the other side throwing it back, and I thought yesterday's game was just cinema. Great stuff to watch. But yeah, Chet was a ghost. I don't know, like there was. Where was he? Where was he? Especially in this game 7 where like you're expecting the stars to show out. Shaigilgeousalexander like leading his team, doing everything. He needs that second piece, and that second piece was not there. Chet Holmgren was consistently the second piece throughout the whole season for the Thunder, being there pretty much with Shai, running that pick and roll, like all that stuff. Phenomenal. Like the great thing of basketball, like both those players were feeding off each other with confidence and shots and everything. And then you go to game 7 and he just is choking under the lights. It was disappointing to watch, especially, I mean, Wemby's dominance is just incredible. This guy cares so much. He had probably one of the best days of his life yesterday with his hometown team, Paris Saint-Germain, winning the UEFA Champions League, as well as him winning the Western Conference Finals to go to the NBA Finals and possibly become an NBA champion, hopefully, because I hate the Knicks, for the first time in his career. That would be awesome. I think a lot of the country is going to be rooting for the Spurs too. So
Except
I'm
Knicks
happy
fans,
about
obviously.
that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot of the country besides New York City and the suburbs, and that's it. But yes, everyone will be rooting for Wemby. Obviously, he's a huge name, and like I said, I thought this specific series was one of the best series that I've watched in person. On TV, I thought that the production and TV and all that stuff was great. There was tons of a lead up for it, and I guess if you're from the Thunder perspective, you have to be disappointed with how your team played, especially on your home court. You would have expected them to show up more, and Chet's comfortable there in the home court. I just thought that maybe they would be able to will their way through, but obviously the Dylan Harper and the surrounding cast around Wemby was able to show up in many circumstances. I remember that was a Dylan Harper shot with around 4 minutes left, just kind of a little shimmy shake and then put up the 3. That pretty much was the dagger. That was the silencer. Like you've said, Dylan Harper had a phenomenal series. He had a great playoffs in general. He's becoming probably one of the right-hand men in terms of people who are players on that team who are relied upon besides Wembanyama. So I'm just excited. I'm happy to see the Spurs and Knicks in the playoffs. I think this is a win-win for pretty much everyone in the league to be able to have two of these pretty decently sized teams, a high market in terms of New York and then San Antonio with the history of that team. And it should be exciting. It should be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, I mean, their depth just came through. I mean, this again, I already talked about Chet, and then like Lou Dort couldn't make a single 3 this whole entire series. Julian Champagnie, just another fumble from the Sixers. I mean, he had 20 points. He shot like 6 of 10 from 3 last night. Like, oh my goodness. Like this whole cast is crazy. You look at Keldon Johnson, 6th man of the year, playing very well as well. And I also want to give credit to Luke Cornett, right? There was a moment in that fourth quarter where Wemby was in foul trouble. Luke Cornett comes in, and I believe he blocked Hartenstein, and I think he just shifted the entire game. He's so good, right? And obviously he's a champion. He won with the Celtics. And that's what I'm saying. Like, they have so much veteran leadership as well. Either those that are in the rotation, like Harrison Barnes, he won with the Warriors, and also with Luke Cornett. But also you have Kelly Olynyk, you have Bismack Biyombo, you have Mason Plumlee on the bench, right? You also have Greg Popovich, who's still involved in the organization, even though he's not the coach anymore. Like Mitch Johnson, oh my goodness, he should have won Coach of the Year. Like, he's been so good this season. And the Spurs, I don't know how anyone's ever going to be able to beat them, especially if they're able to keep this team over the next several years. Now, again, I'm not counting the Thunder out. I'm not saying it's over. I'm not saying trade Chet, trade Jalen Williams. I'm not saying that. Now, we'll see. If next year, if we get the same thing from Chet Holmgren, maybe they have to start looking at it. But I'm a little concerned. They're still going to be a championship contender over the next several years, right? They're not going anywhere. We might see the Thunder and the Spurs in the conference finals every single year for the next like 5 years. It might happen. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, like, Ant-Man's not going away. Jokic is still there. You know, there's still other teams that are up and coming, but nobody's the Spurs. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe next year I'll do a whole thing of how they were a one-hit wonder. I don't see it. Like, I see Wemby being one of the best players this game has ever seen. And he's not afraid of the moment. I mean, they might make history where they didn't make the playoffs last year and they come in and win a championship. That's never happened. It's never happened. So, and if anyone could do it, it's Wemby, because everyone was saying, oh, the only thing the Spurs lack is experience. Well, does it matter? They're in the finals. And you can say, okay, well, the Knicks have more experience, not in the finals. They have experience in the conference finals, right? I mean, again, I like the roster, right? Would I be shocked if the Knicks beat the Spurs? No. Do I think they will? Absolutely not. Like, I just don't see, especially with Mitchell Robinson being injured, right? And I think right now the expectation is he is going to play game one, even with the broken pinky. I'm sure he'll have some sort of brace or whatnot. I mean, I know Brian Windhorst was on First Take saying it was a little bit worse than what it seems. Again, I don't know what on earth he did, but I don't know how you guard Wemby. Like, I don't think Cat's going to be able to do it. Now, Cat has played some decent defense in the playoffs. Like, I'm not going to say he's a terrible defender, but there's just no way. There's no way. And without Mitchell Robinson, you're going to have to rely on OG Anunoby more. You're going to have to rely on maybe an Ariel Huckporty, but they've been using OG a lot at center when Cat has been in foul trouble. And OG's not going to be able to guard Wemby. Maybe he'll do a better job than Caruso did, but like, that's only saying so much. Well, Caruso's 6'5". So I'm very excited. I do agree with you. This was one of the best series, honestly, I've seen in a long time. And yes, I'll say the Boston Sixers series is up there as well. But this is the start of like a new rivalry in the NBA, right? This is the start of a real back and forth dynasty between the Spurs and the Thunder. Like, we could see every other year, like, one of these teams make it to the finals. Like, I just don't see any other team out there that's going to even have a shot, right? I just don't see it. Like, I don't see it unless maybe Giannis goes to Minnesota. I don't see it. Like, or if Jokic gets some help. I mean, Luka will still be around, but it's all Spurs. It's just all the Spurs at this point. So right now, if I had to choose, I'm going to say Spurs in 6 games. What do you think is going to happen?
Spurs in 7. It's going
7?
the distance. Okay. I want it to go the distance just for viewership purposes, people to watch like another long round game, long round series. I just think it's what the NBA needs. And especially with these two teams, I think it'd be great.
Well, I think it'd be cool, especially I believe, if I'm correct, the Spurs are going to be the home team for game 1. So I guess it would be cool seeing the Spurs winning, you know, what would it be, their 6th championship in franchise history, I believe, at this point. And they do it at home. I mean, and is it crazy to say that like the Spurs have kind of found their new big 3? Like, I feel like Wemby, Castle, and Harper, I mean, maybe you could throw Fox in there, we'll see, but at least I'll say those 3 are kind of the new version of Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, right? Fox, maybe you could squeeze in there because he is an all-star, but over the next couple of years, I could see them kind of becoming that.
They need
maybe
to win.
Better.
They need to win a championship first, and then they can finally be proclaimed as the big 3 again. But it's gotta have a title there first.
Yeah, I'm just saying what I predict. What I've seen happen over these next couple of years. Like, I could see these 3 because it's crazy. And they were lucky they were able to get these 3 players before these new like tanking rules came in, because now it's impossible. Like, one of the new rules is you can't get a top 5 pick 3 years in a row, which is, you know, insane. So, you know, obviously the Spurs would have failed at this since they got, you know, Wemby at 1, Castle at 4, Harper at 2. Like, it would have affected them. Now, before we go, I do want to get your quick opinion on the upcoming NBA draft, because you are the college basketball expert here. we do have the Washington Wizards getting the number 1 pick. We had Utah getting number 2, right? Memphis got number 3, and Chicago got number 4. And even, which is crazy, the Clippers ended up winning that Zubac trade. They ended up getting that 5th pick. I mean, the Pacers ended up walking away with nothing. At least looking at the top 4 picks, like, what are your predictions on who goes where? I know right now AJ DeBonsta, his facial expressions might have shown he doesn't want to go to Washington. I know, Boozer, I believe Carlos Boozer works for Utah. Maybe he wants to get a son. I don't know if that's going to happen. What do you see happening in this upcoming NBA draft? Like, if you had to select who's going where?
Well, I think in general, the top 4 picks, so the top 4, like in the mock drafts are pretty much, they're going to be in the first 4 order. That's Debansa, Boozer, Peterson, and Wilson. So those 4 guys are going to kind of be spread out throughout those top 4 picks. But I really don't think, because in previous years we've kind of been saying, oh, the number 1 pick is always kind of locked in before the draft starts. I think this year it's pretty much a toss up. Debansa hasn't expressed he wants to go to Washington. So does Washington want to continue with that? Just because you're gonna get, I think Debansa is probably one of the best players in this draft. Now, obviously, Darren Peterson right behind him. I think him and Debansa are kind of the top 2 in this draft. Now, what do the Wizards want to do? Does he doesn't want to go to Washington, does he? So that's going to throw a little bit of a curveball there for the Wizards front office. Do you want a player who's unhappy with your team to then you have to draft him? That's the question.
But do you care that because at the end of the day, like, Ace Bailey didn't want to go to Utah. Danny Ainge said, we don't care, we're getting you anyways. Can Washington do that with AJ? Now they have Trae Young, they have AD. Maybe you could present that to him. I don't know. Can they just do it either way?
You have the first pick in the draft, and I don't know the next time the Wizards are going to get the first pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
You have to play these cards here however you think they're going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm under the impression that, like, you don't ever want like an unhappy player, because
Okay.
then things, I think, can like be really bad from there. I'd prefer you get a player who, and you're the first pick, so you have pretty much everything out there. Do you want a Darren Peterson player, or do you want AJ Debansa? Which one do you think can fit your system better? They may not even go with those top 2 players, but I think they're 2 of the most skilled in the draft, and I think that they will be 1 and 2, or whichever in order. But yeah, I think it's from the Washington Wizards perspective. They may just go get, hey, we're gonna get Debansa. We don't care what your opinion is, and you're gonna play for the Wizards. Or they're gonna go and get Peterson because they're worried about the effect of an unhappy player in the organization. So obviously we'll see. But I think between Debansa, Boozer, Peterson, and Wilson, those are the top 4. In whatever order happens, it happens. But then the rest of the draft is pretty solid. Like I said, like we said in previous episodes, I believe we've talked about college basketball. This draft is really deep. There are a lot of good, talented players, especially young players who have made an impact in the college game and are coming through and will provide an impact in the NBA, specifically Keaton Wagler, whose stock has gone seriously sky high. He is probably going to be a top 5 pick. He might be on that 5th line, or even may drop into the bottom 6, 7, or 8. But he's been a super talented player to watch in college basketball. Additionally, Darius Acuff Jr. with Arkansas, he's been great to watch. A prolific scorer. He's someone that probably will be a future All-Star. That's my prediction. He's just an incredibly good scorer. So we'll see. Like I said, this draft is extremely deep, and there will be a lot of teams, especially in the lower top 15, that are going to be getting great players that'll contribute right now. So it's exciting.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I mean, again, I understand your point. I think you should take the best talent. And at the end of the day, like, who's going to want to go to Washington? Like, I just don't know if you're going to find anyone that is willing to go there. Maybe you talked to him. Maybe that was just his reaction on draft night. I mean, we saw, like, I know this wasn't the number 1 pick, but we saw Colin Murray Boyles not happy with getting selected by Toronto that year. He was fine, right? Ace Bailey, he didn't want to go to the Utah first. He was fine. You don't want to screw up a number 1 overall pick. I understand, but maybe it will work out. Or maybe they go with Darren Peterson. And I know he was a little controversial as well with all the injuries and the leaving games early. So we'll see what happens. I'm very excited because I love seeing the young talent in the NBA. It's fun to watch. Obviously, I was excited watching VJ Edgecombe grow this year. It was cool watching Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple, and obviously your guy Dylan Harper. Now we get to see him in his first NBA Finals in his rookie season, which is going to be so fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it. We're definitely going to be talking about the finals, especially after the series is over. We're going to be reacting to who is the NBA champion for the 2025-2026 NBA season. We'll talk a lot more about the draft as we get a lot closer. But if you enjoyed watching or listening to our podcast, make sure to give it a like. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, iHeart, Amazon. I'm DJ Sports Zone. We got Jordan Sabel here. And as always, we will see you next time. Go Spurs!